So our speakers were awesome, but without further ado, I want to take a moment and introduce to the stage someone who I consider a friend, one of the most dynamic speakers I know, the Vice President of Channel for Verizon, Miss Janet Shines. Back 'em dead, baby.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you. They told me to use this one. I apparently have the key to making the slides work. We're going to give it a go. So thank you. On behalf of all of our colleagues from Verizon, thank you so much for joining us. We have a very exciting session today, and I'm not going to take too much of your time. So just a couple quick things before we get started. I am so excited to be here with each and every one of you, and so thankful to see this packed room this morning, to see the special presentation that Verizon is going to put on. So give yourselves a round of applause for being in the room. Woo! All right, now let's get going. We're going to try to make up some time. So look, no one is in this alone. No one. I could stand up here and talk for the next 6 or 10 or 12 minutes. 6 minutes does mean 6, Care. Had to have a little fun with them. We love each other. I could stand up here and talk about that. I could talk about our program. I could tell you exactly what our program means, but you know that, because most of you are in our program, and we appreciate that. And we're actually here at this event meeting with our valued partners, not recruiting new partners, because our partners are making good money, but more importantly, they're making good progress in their community. And look, this is what it's all about. We can call it small business, but that's discounting it. It's not, because some of the biggest companies in the world are in your local community. And let's face it, the facts are very clear. In the next 4 years, 50% of the S&P 500 will turn over. They will no longer be in the S&P 500. Who will replace them? A local business that just today, is starting to do the things that's going to make them a little bigger. And in fact, I would argue that we heard a great announcement here a minute ago from our friends at M. Tusker that they're doing some of that themselves, right? Trying to be that community. So we didn't give you a big enough hand. Congratulations on your merger. Really great news. Great to see the channel doing that. And the key here is the ROI of investing in each other. I stood up here 3 years ago, told you to get marketing. Just saw a CompTIA report that said you should be marketing. I stood up last year and told you about our powerful SD-WAN network and our plans for 5G and our superiority in LTE. And I could stand up here for an hour and tell you every company from RootMetrics to Dun & Bradstreet to you name your thing says we have the best wireless network and we're in the leader quadrant in SD-WAN. And I could explain that most people are doing a hybrid implementation of SD-WAN. They are not ripping and replacing, and they are not working with just cable cos. They are working with their trusted channel partner who has delivered for them year after year after year. And that is Verizon's strategy. We understand that you're who's investing in your employees. You're investing in other partners. You're investing in your customers and your communities. And we know that that's a $5 trillion opportunity in the next 5 years. There is money to be made, but more importantly, in a millennial-led society, there is progress to be made. I'd like to show you just a quick video, if we can cue that up, of what Verizon is doing to help make the world a better place.
When you grow up?
I thought about becoming an actor and or a model.
I'd love to be a soccer player one day.
What do most of your friends want to be?
Some want to be football players.
Basketball players.
But the truth is, we don't need more Drews.
We don't need more Villas.
We don't need more Adrianas.
We don't need more LeBrons.
We need more kids to see the world of possibilities, but millions of students still don't have the tech they need to go after their dreams. That's why Verizon is on a mission to help. We're giving free tech, free access, and hands-on learning to kids in need. Join us at weneedmore.com.
You're in your local community, and we face a crisis as an industry and as a country. And that crisis is our young people have dreams that can't come true. And they can't come true if our local schools can't get the students into the classroom and can't give them the technology they need. Because we heard yesterday from CompTIA, we need an upgrade in the channel. We need to get millennials in the channel. But how would a millennial ever find the tech industry or the channel if we don't invest in them when they're young? And so our Verizon Foundation and all of our Verizon employees are taking it on their own shoulders, understanding what it takes to help those students to become the 4 million technology and science workers that our nation needs. That's important stuff, and we want you to help us do that. But look, that's one initiative. That's one thing that Verizon did. But I want to talk about one more thing, and then I'm going to bring a special speaker up here. And it comes down to the power of one. Each and every one of us investing in our communities with education and outreach that has an impact. Now look, that can make you uncomfortable. That can sound soft. But how many people know or support a millennial? I have two, so I get to raise both hands. Okay. Here's what we've seen. Millennials want to work for, work with, and buy from companies that have a higher cause, that are good people, that are good companies, that are great places to work, that are investing in their communities. And that is who the next generation of big businesses are going to come from. They're going to come from those people that dig deep, that be better people than they want to be, and that invest in their local community. Because that's how millennials, who are now 50% of the tech purchasing, make their decisions. It's not just how good you are at your product. It's not just how good you are at your services. It's also how good you are at supporting others like them. And so about a year ago, I was at the National Retail Federation, and myself and my team's perspective on our business plan was changed by one man. One man willing to do something that was foundationally different, willing to turn his back on his rising career to a certain extent, to deliver on his commitment to help children. I heard him perform and speak, and my team and I looked at each other and said, to a one, we can do more, we can do better, we can be better, and our partners can make us better. And so with no further ado, I would like to welcome to the stage my now friend, best-selling music artist, best-selling writer, and phenomenal guy who I hope will change your mind about how you're thinking about how you live, work, and play, the amazing Jimmy Wayne. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Morning.
Go sit down.
All right, thank you.
Sorry.
2, 1, 2. It's like growing up poor. I remember that night walking home from the store, stopping every few minutes, setting down that jug, blowing on my hands, trying to warm them up. You see that other kid from my homeroom class, that nice warm car, his hero pass, and I rise meeting like I sometimes did, and reading my name on his lips. Kerosene kid, don't let them get you down. Hold your head up and be proud. Kerosene kid, they don't understand. Everything that we've got is a gift. Kerosene, whoa, whoa, yeah. I get home with that jug, mama filled up the heater. Those kerosene fumes filled up the trailer. Got all over everything like a blanket of dust. On the sheets, on the bed, on the carpet, on us. Next morning at school and yesterday's clothes. Somebody be laughing, some girl be holding her nose. I sat there embarrassed, my face turning red, getting madder, telling myself, kerosene kid, don't let them get you down. Hold your head up and be proud. Kerosene kid, they don't understand everything that that we've got is a gift. Come on, kerosene kid. Whoa, yeah. Don't let 'em know. Every day when I look in the mirror, I can't say enough, oh no, about the little man back in my memories that never gave up. Kerosene kid, they didn't get you down. You held your head up, you stood proud. Kerosene kid, yes, you understand everything that you've got is a gift. Kerosene kid, don't let them get you down. Hold your head up, stay proud. Kerosene kid, we'll all understand everything that we've got is a gift. Come on, kerosene, yeah. Oh, kerosene kid, don't let them get you down. No, whoa, whoa, no, no. Come on, kerosene kid, no, 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 whoa, 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 no, 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 no. There's a little bit of volume up here, eh? This goes out to all the dreamers. If you have a dream, doesn't matter how young, old, who you are, where you come from. When I got to Nashville, I performed this song a lot. A lot of people said, that's not country music. You ruin your chances of ever having a career in this town. Well, I figured I got somebody's attention, so I kept singing it. Ended up recording it with Daryl Hall and John Oates. It's a dream come true. Baby head with a woman's eyes, I can feel you watching in the night, all alone with me, oh, waiting for the sunlight, oh yeah. When I feel cold, you warm me, yes you do. Feel I can't go on, you come and hold me. It's you and me forever. Oh yeah. Sarah, won't you smile a while for me? Sarah, you feel like leaving, you know that you can't go. Why don't you wait until tomorrow? If you want to be free, you know, all you've got to do right now is say so. And you feel cold, I'll warm you, yes I will. But you can't go on, I'll come and hold you. It's you and me forever. Sarah, oh yeah, Sarah, smile now. But won't you smile a while for me, Sarah? When you feel cold, I'll warm you, yes I will. But you can't go on, I'll come and hold you. It's you and me forever. Sarah, oh Sarah. Thank you, guys. Wow, I need some volume. If you don't mind, turn the mic up a little bit. I remember that night very well, standing on stage at Madison Square Garden, singing those songs in tune, and getting my pose on. You guys are still not awake, right? That's what we do in life sometimes when we get a stage, you know, make a little money, ride around on a fancy tour bus, all the ladies on the front row screaming and singing your songs. That's awesome. I remember stepping out to the edge of the stage, and I looked over at my guitar player, Rob, and he's smiling at me really big. I'm smiling at him. I knew what he was thinking. He knew exactly what I was thinking. We made it, man. We made it. We remember those nights very well, standing on the shipping and receiving dock at the Osage Textile Factory, looking out at the night sky, eating our bologna sandwich, saying, man, I can't wait to get out of here. And there we were, two small country boys from a small town that didn't even have a traffic light, standing on stage at Madison Square Garden. Walked off stage, went back to the dressing room. I gathered up everything. I headed out to the tour bus. I plopped down in the back of the bus on this leather couch. I was looking out the window as we're heading out of Manhattan. All the excitement, the cabs, the lights, the people, the homeless people. Got back to Nashville, and I'm standing in the foyer of my warm, comfortable townhome, stirring my coffee. And if you know anything about me at all, you know I love coffee. I drink all 8 cups before 8 o'clock a.m. every morning. I love it. And I'm thinking about everything that I had accomplished over the last 12 years in my career, and I'm looking out the window, and it's real gloomy outside. There was an Arctic blast that moved down from the northwest into the southeast, just freezing everybody. And for some of you who are used to this type of weather, please indulge, but to us in Nashville, 7 degrees is cold. 15 degrees below zero is really cold. But I wasn't cold. I was indoors. I was stirring my coffee. I got my house coat on, my flannel pajamas, my brown leather bedroom shoes with fur, cat fur, some kind of fur. Just kidding. Really? I love cats. I walked over to a thermostat and I hit the temperature gauge and bumped it up a couple of degrees. And when the sound of that furnace turned on and the heat coming through the vent, this overwhelming feeling of guilt consumed me from my head down to my feet. It reminded me of a promise I made when I was a kid. When I was a kid at the group home, laying in bed listening to music. And I'd always pretend that was me singing on stage somewhere. And I made a promise then. I said, you know, when I make it, not if, but when I make it, I'm not going to forget where I come from. I'm going to come back and I'm going to help my brothers and sisters growing up in foster care. I've got to do something because I haven't done anything. I've been living it up on the road, having fun. I mean, I've done a couple of charity events here and there, a couple little fundraisers, but I'm talking about really giving back, like something on a grand scale. I've got to do something like, I don't know, like walking halfway across America, from Nashville to Phoenix. I can do that. It doesn't look that far on that Southwest napkin. It's literally... I called my manager and I said, look, I've got some time off. I'm going to be off for the next 4 months. Just got off of this tour, and I'm going to be sitting here in Nashville just writing songs. So why don't I do something to give back to the 30,000 children who age out of foster care every year in America and become homeless? The 50% of the females that age out the first year who end up pregnant within the first year. The 1 out of 4 who end up incarcerated within 2 years. I mean, this is a crisis. It's an epidemic right here in America, but we don't really hear about it as much. You can only imagine how that conversation was. It was very quiet, obviously, and couldn't talk me out of it. So 2 weeks later, I'm standing in a parking lot. I've got this big backpack on my back. It's filled with supplies, clothes, etc. And all the cameras are out there. And all the fans and all the supporters and people cheering me on, like, go, Jimmy, go, go, go. And I'm walking out of this long parking lot, waving at everybody, smiling really big at the camera. And I'm walking. And I'm walking. And like 3 days into this walk, I can still see my house. I'm like, uh-oh. Oh, boy. It's going to be a long walk. 3 months into this walk, I was not even at the halfway point. So I had to start working, obviously, and I'd go and sport car driver would come out and mark the area with a GPS, get in a car and go to the closest airport and go do another show. Be right back out to business, getting the pose on. People screaming, singing a song that they heard on the radio. I'd go back out on the walk the next day, and the next day I'd be out walking and hardly anyone would speak to me because they thought I was homeless. I was simulating being homeless. Wow, man, what a reality check. Just 2 days ago, they were asking for pictures and autographs, and now today they won't even speak to me because I'm not important to them. 7 months later, I finally made it to Phoenix, Arizona. I had literally walked 1,700 miles every single step of the way. And despite the crazy people that would come out and walk with me, because crazy attracts crazy, right? So you'd be walking. Somebody'd walk with you and be like, hey, what are you doing? Walking. What are you doing? Walking. Uh-oh. Despite the rattlesnakes, I mean, I literally would, I would walk down the side of the road in the desert and I'd hear a rattlesnake rattle. And what do? You walk around them like you do in the music business or any business. Despite the broken foot, I walked until my foot literally just broke. That was still not the hardest walk of my life. Now, I'll pause a little bit and just say that my story pales in the light of the majority of these kids that are growing up in the system. But I feel like that this is an opportunity that I've been given. I've been given the gift of experience and a platform to share it from. It started when I was a kid. I was living with my granddad. My granddad was a geezer. Anybody ever heard that word geezer? He's an old man, had like one eyeball, carried a gun in his pocket. He sold liquor at the foothills of the mountains in North Carolina. It didn't matter what I said to this guy. I could say, I'm hungry. He'd say, work. I'd say, I'm bored. He'd say, work. I'd say, I'm sleepy. He'd say, work. I'd say, I don't know what to do. He'd say, work. That was his answer for everything, even though he never worked. So I'd go out to the golf course. He'd say, just go out there and pick golf balls out of the bushes and creeks and wash them off and sell them back to the golfers. And there I would be, standing at the green. And I'd have tube socks tied to my belt loops, filled with golf balls. The golfer would putt, and I'd say, golf ball, 25 cents. Sometimes they'd buy all the golf balls from me, and I'd take that money and I'd save it up. Each week I'd send it to my mom, who was serving time in maximum security prison, her second time. We moved from this area, and we moved to a trailer park closer to the city, and obviously there's no trailer parks with the golf courses, right? So I had to figure out a new way to earn money. I saw this elderly lady walking from the grocery store, and she's carrying her groceries, and she'd sit them down, she'd pick them up and walk a little bit, sit them down, pick them up, walk a little bit, sit them down. And I thought, you know what, I can do that. I can walk to the grocery store for her. Ma'am, I'll walk to the grocery store for you and bring your groceries right back to you if you let me have the change. So I built up a little business. At like 11 years old, I had a business. I had clients, I had like 10 clients that would let me go to the grocery store for them. One day this gentleman asked me, he said, hey kid, will you walk to that franchise up there and get me some French fries? Now listen up, folks. You don't send an 11-year-old boy to a franchise to get some crispy fried, crunchy, good-smelling French fries and not get him a box. So on the way back, these French fries are right here. And those things are smelling so good. And I'm thinking, you know what? He's not going to miss one. So I lapped that French fry out of there, and I chewed it up, and I thought, man, that tastes good. And I thought, you know, he's not going to miss 2 or 3. So I just started eating these French fries. And by the time I got back to his trailer, I'd eaten half the box of French fries. He was so mad at me, he told all of my clients what I'd done. And they all fired me on the spot. I lost my entire business right there. But I learned a very valuable lesson. I learned this at 11 years old. You don't eat another man's fries. It doesn't matter how pretty she is. You know what I'm talking about. Keep that ring on. Wow. During this time, you can only imagine, I had no discipline at home. My granddad didn't care, but I did at school. Let me tell you, When I went to school, there was a school teacher there, Miss Friday, Miss Crystal Friday. She was one of the first African Americans to teach in the state of North Carolina in a very racially divided area of Carolina. And it's still that way, unfortunately, for those of you who are listening. It was horrible. It's horrible now. Miss Friday, though, didn't take anything off anyone. But I knew it would get on her nerves, the things that I'd say to her, hurtful things that I would hear around in the neighborhood. I'd go to school and I'd say them to her just to get on her nerves. Because Miss Friday was the only person reaching out to me. She's the only person listening and responding. She reached out to me with a leather strap about that long. Now, some of you say, I don't believe in that. Well, guess what? I'm not in prison. She saved my life. Go out in the hallway, and she was doing yoga before it was popular. I mean, she would reach way back and hit me with this leather strap 3 times, make my face hurt. Not only did Miss Friday discipline me, she encouraged me to write, and that's where it started. Writing started with Miss Friday. She'd say, write your thoughts down, just write it out. Write a journal entry. I don't want a stupid journal. But she would not give up on me. Mom ends up getting out of prison. She marries a man. We're going down the road one night, and this guy hands me a gun. He said, load this gun. I didn't think anything about it. I'd grown up in this environment. I grew up in an environment where prostitutes would come to our house and not even knock. They'd come in and make my sister and I get out of our bed so they could use our bed while we lay on the floor. It was crazy. Drugs, crime, can you imagine? So I loaded the gun. I handed it back to him. We pulled into a driveway. We sat there. It's at nighttime. And all of a sudden, he unloads the gun into their home. We pull out, drive away, go down the country back road in North Carolina. We pull into another area, turn off the lights in the engine. The police are racing by shortly afterwards. He hands me the gun. He said, load the gun. I'm nervous, but I loaded the gun. And then he turned the gun on me in the car. But he hit me so hard with this gun, it turned my head. And when it turned my head, he pulled the trigger. Blew a hole in the window. I jump on his arm. I'm working my hands down to his hand. All 70 pounds is laying on his arm. I'm screaming, please don't shoot me. I ended up escaping the car. I ran that entire night. He ended up shooting someone the following night. Shot him 3 times. Watched him do it. He tells my mom, let's go. My mom tells me, gather up everything you need or want, and let's get in the car. We're out of here. We headed out of North Carolina in this big Oldsmobile Delta 88. I'm in the back seat. All the dirty clothes are piled up here, a cooler in the floorboard. I've worked myself into a little cubby. We headed out of North Carolina. We're heading west to Oklahoma City. Along the way, we'd pull into a rest area. Mama put shirts under her shirt, pretending to be pregnant, collecting money from innocent people. He'd fill up the gas tank and just drive off without paying. It was like Bonnie and Clyde with a kid. We headed south to Texas, doing the same thing. We headed back east to Pensacola, Florida. We pull into a parking lot. It's at nighttime. I hear my stepdad's voice say, get out of the car. I wake up. That's where I sat every day, slept all night, sat every day. This routine was miserable. And I saw my stepdad's eyes in the rear view, and he says, get out of the car now. I get out. I see my mom standing against the trunk of the car. She's crying. Mom, what's wrong? Her face is soaking wet. She leans over and she says, you got to get everything out of the trunk of the car. And she kissed me on the face. She got back in the car. She and my stepdad drove away, and they never come back. So now I'm 13 years old. I'm outside. I don't have any money, no food, no cell phone. I don't have anything. I have to figure out what to do at 13 years old. How do I get back to North Carolina? I don't even know. I saw a light on inside of a building that happened to be a bus station. I went in and asked this gentleman if he had any help he could offer me. He put me on a bus, took me back to North Carolina. That's where I was picked up by the police, placed in the system again, and spent the next 3 years bouncing from home to group home, foster home, receiving home, detention center, friend's home, stranger's home, outside, in an abandoned trailer. I mean, this was 3 years that I don't even hardly remember school whatsoever. I remember struggling. I eventually migrated out of the system. Now listen, I'm 16 years old. I'm on my own in North Carolina. My hair's down my back. I got my faded tattoos up my left side because I'm right-handed. You don't give one of those kids an art kit now. Go helping them. So I'm going down the road on a bicycle that I had borrowed. I was going to return it, didn't know when. And I'm looking for work because I needed to eat. I saw this doorway open on a wood shop. There's this man standing there, and he's cutting a dasher at a bandsaw, and this familiar voice said to me, go in and ask him if he has any work you can do. Sir, hey sir, you got any work I can do? He didn't even look at me. He's cutting this dasher and he says, ask the boss. And he nodded his head toward his wife, a little white-haired lady in the back of the wood shop, back there just manhandling this radio arm saw. She hits the off button, puts the goggles up on top of her white hair, brushes her arms off in her apron. She walks toward me. She's looking me up and down, and despite the way that I looked on the outside because I lived outside, she asked, do you cut grass? Yes, ma'am, I'll cut grass. We'll come back this afternoon, 5 o'clock, and cut our grass. Guess what time I showed up to cut their grass? I didn't show up at 5 o'clock because she said start cutting grass at 5 o'clock. That means show up before 5 so you can start working on time. Because when you're hungry, you're on time. I'm cutting her grass, and this lady, I see her shortly afterwards, this white-haired lady, walk out the front door of her house, and she's carrying with her a Coca-Cola. She motions for me to come over to the fence. We talk, she talks, I listen. She talks about the weather, she talks about the job I'm doing. She hands me this cold, ice-cold Coca-Cola and hands me a $20 bill. Couldn't believe it. She hired me that day to be her lawn boy for the remainder of that summer. And every week I was on time, I did the best job I could do. And it was the same scenario, Coca-Cola, conversation, $20. I'd make that $20 last until the next week. Toward the end of the summer, obviously the grass isn't growing, it's getting cold outside. I'm scared, I don't have a job lined up, I don't have anywhere to live. But this day she walked outside with this Coca-Cola and she had this concerned look in her eyes. She asked me, Jimmy, where do you live? I didn't want to tell this 75-year-old woman anything about me because I figured if she knew I'd grown up in the system, she wouldn't want me around her house because most people don't want kids around their house that's been in the system, right? A lot of baggage. So I gave this lady the most general, basic, honest answer I could. And I looked at her right in her beautiful eyes and I said, up the road. She's pretty smart. She said, well, Russell and I have been talking. Russell's her husband. We want to know if you'd be interested in moving into our home. I knew this wasn't going to work because Russell was a World War II veteran. And he and I had already made that eye contact that older men and young boys make. That look that he gives you like, and that look you give him like, it's not going to work. But I figured, guess what? It's a couple of days I don't have to sleep outside. I can take a shower, eat, sleep in a comfortable bed. Things that we might take for granted. I showed up with my bag of clothes. I rang the doorbell. Miss Costner walked up to this glass storm door. She's smiling really big. Her name was Beatrice Costner. She'd prefer you just call her B, the first 3 letters of the word beautiful. She opens that glass storm door and she says, come on in. I stepped into their home and it smelled so good. It smelled like pie. Like grandma's house. It smelled like home. I'm walking across the living room floor and I can feel Russell staring at me. But I'm not looking at him. I walk down to this bedroom. There's this brand new carpet, brand new bed, lamp. There was even a piano in the bedroom. Who gets treated like that? There's no way they're going to give that to me. So I didn't unpack my bag. I waited. 2 or 3 days into this, nothing. 3 or 4 days into this, 5 days, still nothing. And I'm walking out of the bedroom, walking down this narrow hallway. I'm feeling comfortable. And all of a sudden, Russell turned the corner. Uh-oh. We've got to meet. So I started looking at all the pictures on the wall. He walks up to me and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, I need to talk to you about something. And unlike me, Russell didn't talk a lot. But when he did, you didn't misunderstand a word he said. For instance, he said this to me once. I remember this. He says, Jimmy, if you blow grass in my tulips again, I'm going to fire your ass. I remember that. You just turn the lawnmower around that way and blow the grass that way. The best way to describe Russell is if you took Andy Griffith, all right, and you took Clint Eastwood in the movie Gran Torino, minus the racism, and you combine those personalities. That was Russell. He was strong. He was a military man. He had earned a Purple Heart. I mean, this guy was something else. Sit down. He gave me a direct order to sit down. I mean, it was military. I wasn't used to this, but I sat down. I just respected him. He demanded respect. So I sat down, and he went across the living room. I won't make you wait as long as he made me wait, but he did just like this. He said, Jimmy, if you're going to stay in my home, there's two things you've got to do. I wanted to tell him. Oh, man, did I want to tell him. First thing you've got to do, you've got to cut off all of your hair. It has to be cut just like mine, which is that 1945 haircut. We want you to go to church. If you don't do those two things, you've got to leave now. Wow. For some reason, I thought he's going to let the haircut slide. As soon as I said, okay, he says, get in the truck. I got in this big green Dodge farm truck, and we headed to the Dixie Village barbershop. And on the way there, his little military arms are gripping the steering wheel. He's not speaking. He's on a mission. His eyes are on the road. We pull in. He marches to the front door of this barbershop, and I'm behind him. We walk in, and he says, how you doing, Mr. Cole? Fine, Mr. Costner. What can I do for you? He needs a haircut. That barber looked at me like he couldn't wait. Get up here, boy. I got up in this big leather chair, and he puts this cape around my neck. So how's business going, Mr. Costner? And that was it. I mean, like in 5 seconds, my head was bald. And it's shaped like the number 8, seriously. I get out of the chair, I'm heading back to the farm truck, and he says, where are you going? We're going in here to get some school clothes. That wasn't part of the deal. I didn't say that. I walked in, he said, pick out some pants, pick out some shirts. I said, Mr. Costner, I've never done that. I don't know how. I don't know where to start. Well, what size do you wear? Well, I don't know. I mean, they give us stuff at the group home, or we dive into one of those donation boxes in front of the grocery store and try things on until it fits. Get out and run. Done all that. We'll get some help. Got some help, headed back to their house with a bag of brand new clothes, a brand new haircut. I'm new. I show up, I dig through that bag, and I pull out a phone number that belonged to a guidance counselor that I'd met in the 7th grade. Miss Ballard, this is Jimmy. I have a home. Wow. Jimmy, it's so good hearing from you. We'd lost contact because I'd moved around so much. I went to 12 schools in 2 years. I mean, they literally lost the school records. I know I need to go back to school. With her help, with his help, their help, I was allowed to go back to school. But they saw a kid helping himself. That's what they saw first. They weren't investing in a kid that wasn't willing to help himself, because that's in vain. That's not going to work. He has to be willing to help himself. Man, this family gave me the opportunity and resources to go back to school. Imagine that. I'd quit school. I go back to high school. I didn't miss one single day of high school, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I was there every single day. Like, even on senior skip day, I was the only one walking around, kind of looking around. This family gave me a chance to have my first girlfriend. That's important to a young man, right? It's important. It was to me. I'd never had one. And this girl was there for me all the time. She was there when I wrecked my first car. She was there when I lost my second dog. I mean, she was always there. And I got thinking one day, I was like, you know what? Every time she's around, something bad happens. And I kind of got rid of her. This family gave me a chance to go to college. Guess who worked and paid for it? I did. The government didn't pay for my college. Not that that's a bad idea. But these kids have to work for something, or they're not going to appreciate anything. So I still have my school books because I paid for them. I worked in a textile factory, remember? This family gave me an opportunity to get a decent job in my community. I worked as an officer in a state prison, stood on a gun tower holding a gun. Imagine this. Here's all my foster brothers I used to run around with in prison, and I'm an officer on the guardhouse, looking down on the prison yard. And I'd see these guys, and every single one of them made a conscious decision to put themselves in prison. No one made him pull that gun and shoot that guy in the face. He did that. All these guys. Mr. Costner, unfortunately, after I'd moved in, 3 months after I moved in, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer and passed away. So I lived with this lady, this 75-year-old woman, 6 years. Just me. And her family was like, oh, no, there's no way we're going to have this teenage boy living in our mom's house. And all I ever heard was, you're not going to be in the will. The will, the will, the will, the will. You know, the will, the will, the will. This goes on for a year and a half. It's the will. And finally one day I'm stopping him in the yard and I'm like, hold on a minute. Whose will? I've never met this guy. It's like he's causing all these problems around here. I moved out eventually. I'd always go back, though, and I'd pick B up, and I'd take her to these events just like this. And it didn't matter what event it was. She would sit on the front row right here in front of the microphone stand, and she would read her Bible to me. I'm up on stage. You can't get your flirt on, and you can't sing party songs with Grandma Dynamite on the front row reading scripture. But she wouldn't move. This was every single event. Now, this particular event, I said, B, listen, there's going to be so many people at this event. Why don't you sit over near the exit door, and then after the show, I'll meet you over there, and we'll get in the car, and we'll get out here real quick. Okay, she sat down. She's 81 years old now, and she's reading her scripture. She didn't play politics. She didn't push it on you, but she didn't play that. She read. That's what she did. She read every day, and I ran backstage, and I heard the announcer, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And I ran out on stage, man. I looked down, and there's B. She done wiggled her way back in the middle of all those pretty girls, and they're all scared. They're looking at her. She's got her Bible open, reading. After that event, I'm heading back to her house, and she's in the passenger side. She's reading, and I'm just driving down the road. I'm about a minute and 20 seconds from her house, and something said to me, you need to tell her you love her. Tell her how much you appreciate her. And I'm like, nah, I've never said those words. I don't remember hearing those words. It's very uncomfortable. I didn't grow up like that. But I looked over at her, and I said, B, I love you. And it just started coming out. I started just thanking her for everything. I mean, I thanked her for every Coca-Cola, washing powders, the electricity, the water, the opportunities to work, get my car, get a job, education. I mean, I thanked this lady for everything I could possibly think of. Everything. Pulled into the driveway, I get out of the car, I run around, I lock my arm with hers, and I help her out of the car. And when I'm walking this 81-year-old lady back to that same glass storm door, the one she opened 6 years ago, and opened her life to me and her heart and let me inside and rescued me when I had absolutely nothing to give them. I had nothing to offer this family, nothing. Changed my life. I'm standing there. I said, B, I'll be back in 3 days to pick you up. We're going to go to another event. Goodbye, Jimmy. She waved at me. I thought it was kind of strange because we're literally this close. And I said, all right, B, I'll see you later. And she waved at me again. I waved at her. She waved at me again, waved at her. This goes on for a minute or two. All right, B, I'll see you. And I walked off. I walked away from her. I got in the car, and I could hear B saying, goodbye, Jimmy. I could see her waving, and I drove away. The following morning, I received a phone call from her daughter. She's crying. Jimmy, we lost Mom last night. What? Can you imagine? I mean, the sadness was just overwhelming. Here's a lady, here's someone that I lost that changed my life. But at the same time, I was so thankful and so glad that I took that one chance, that one opportunity to say I love you and thank you for helping me. There's a lot of kids you might be helping that you'll never meet. People you may never even meet eyeball to eyeball. And if you do, they may never say it because they're so hard. But I'll say it for you. Whatever you're doing in your community, in your business to help children, thank you so much for what you're doing. You don't know the impact that you're having on them, the positive impact you're having on these kids. Don't ever give up on them. It's the greatest investment after taking care of yourself and your family. It's the greatest investment you can ever make in your life is investing in a kid. They're our most vulnerable and valuable resource, period. Cars get old, they fall apart. Houses get old, they fall apart. When I moved to Nashville, I got a record deal, put out a song. My first song went up the Billboard charts, stayed at number 3 for 3 weeks. That equals a number 1, right? I'm at the local Walmart in my hometown celebrating. There's like a 4-hour line going out the front door wrapped around Walmart. And what they would do is the people would come up and they would put their arm around me and take a picture, and I'd sign their CD. You know what a CD is? CD. 2.5 hours into this signing, I am like, my back is killing me. I'm like, I want to go home, complaining a little bit. And these two hands, I saw these two hands slide a CD toward me. And I recognized those hands. Except this time they weren't holding a leather strap. Miss Friday! I jumped up and I'm telling you, I hugged her in front of everyone. I said, Miss Friday, I'm sorry. Huh? I'm so sorry, Miss Friday, for the things I said to you when I was in the 6th grade twice. Let me tell you, man, she did not pass me on just to get rid of me. The second year I was in her class, I sat down in the back of the room, and she got up and she walked back there and she grabbed that desk and she pulled me all the way up to the front of the room and pushed my desk up beside her desk. It looked like the judge and the witness stand. It was kind of like I sat there the whole year looking at her. Oh, she was tough, man. Miss Friday, I am sorry. But Miss Friday, thank you so much for investing in my life. Look, Miss Friday, look. And I opened the booklet inside the CD and I said, see all those songs I've written? I wrote those songs, Miss Friday. That song paid my house off. Miss Friday, see that report card? It says, Jimmy needs to improve in writing, Miss Friday. I wanted everyone to know who you are because you're that important to me. I put that report card in every single CD we ever sold. To this very day, as of 2 days ago, I still receive holiday cards from Miss Friday, birthday cards. It doesn't matter. It could be Christmas, Easter, St. Patrick's, Jack-o'-lantern Day. It doesn't matter. She's sending me cards for everything. Miss Friday. If you notice, there's been a few people that helped me get here. Not an entire army of people, but just a few people who invested into my life. I would not be here. I know that for a fact. I would not be here had it not been for these few individuals who took time and cared enough to help me. Folks, thank you so much. And Janet, wherever you're sitting, I don't know where you are, you're awesome. I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity to share my story and bring my book in to offer it. Folks, please, the book is so important. It's been on the New York Times list 3 times, but that's not the most important part. The most important part is this book has changed lives, and that's what we're trying to do. We have copies back there, but Janet, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Don't you leave the stage. Okay. Stay right here with me. We're going to wrap this up, I hope, in a Verizon way. So after I saw Jimmy, my team and I, we changed our plans. In fact, maybe some of you don't know about me is, and they tell you don't cry in business, but today I think it's an exception. If you want to cry, you can join me. I have a couple kids I've helped along the way. And your story just resonated with me, not only as a parent who helped children, but as a community person, as a business person who believes that we can do more, who believes that we're more than the sum of our experiences and we're what we bring out. But most importantly, that one person like you can impact an entire community. And so I want to tell you the end of this story. So Jimmy and I met at NRF. And about 8 weeks ago, a little boy tweeted to me, hey, I've been going to school on a Vigo, a Verizon mobile robot telepresence unit, and I'm going to graduate high school. They said I could never get through school, but through the power of technology that one of our partners in our wireless network brought to them, this little boy went to school. And he said, can you help me? Because my senior project is to try to donate a Vigo to another kid who needs help at the University of Pittsburgh Hospital, where he's been all his life getting help. And Jimmy immediately answered the tweet and said, hey, Janet, I'll come speak for free, and let's donate that robot to the kids. So I cannot believe you did this for us. Thank you. Amazing thing to have done. And so, Jimmy, we got a little special video for you, and then I'm going to have a final cut. So can you roll the video for me, guys?
Hi, everybody. This is Chris Galuka. I just wanted to thank you for the wonderful donation to my senior project of Vigo robots to Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
So Jimmy, on behalf of the 100,000 plus Verizon employees and our entire channel, we have announced a new award today. Verizon is going to be awarding an annual community maker, somebody who invests in our community, somebody who is with us in the fight to make it a better place to live, work, and play. And on behalf of Verizon, congratulations as our first ever community maker.
That is cool, man. Whoa, holy moly.
Beautiful award. Picture.
Oh my God, yeah. Unbelievable.
Thank you for everything you're doing. And I don't know, Bob, I'm going to let you say the final words to the audience. God bless you.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Wow, this is cool. I hope they let me on a plane with it. Please think about this story. When you read the book, please share it with as many people as you possibly can. Give it away. Ask them to give it away. It's about the story. It's about helping. Please remember, the most important investment you'll make is in a kid's life. Never, ever forget that. God bless you. Thank you, Janet, for having me. I really do appreciate you guys, and I have a Verizon phone.
Yay.